can go sook and 20.
उनके टेरर कैंप्स उड़ाए गए.
Red Devils, the coast operators, India's silent blades. कितना खतरा था?
आप गलत लोगों से पूछ रहे हैं. अगर खतरा नहीं होगा, you asking us जो खतरा ढूंढ करके जाते हैं. If it is not tough or if it is not challenging, we won't even take that.
वो पैरा एसिड के पास आएगा ही.
दूसरे लोग कर सकते हैं तो फिर वो कर लें.
Whenever there is any conflict escalation, the first thing one hears is that Pakistan's nuclear switch, no one knows who has it.
तो तुम्हारे पास चाकू है, तुम्हारे पास न्यूक्लियर है, जो भी है, थप्पड़ तो फिर भी पड़ेगी.
सभी को पता लग चुका है कि इंडिया ने चाइनीज सिस्टम फेल किया, पाकिस्तानी सिस्टम फेल किया एंड कुछ यूएस सिस्टम भी फेल किया जो पाकिस्तान के पास था.
I would have wanted कि तुम रगड़ के अंदर डाल दो.
What was the toughest minute?
200 meters close to the camp, we're just walking and the first guy goes, the second guy, he steps on an IED and he goes boom like that. His eyes were completely bruised. That was because of the blast.
India completed successfully Operation Sindur, changing the doctrine militarily as well as from a political and foreign policy point of view. What really happened in terms of the exact nature of the operation, to understand the psyche of our soldiers who were there on the front lines, the operation that really changed the game as far as India is concerned, and more importantly, what lies ahead going forward and inside the mind of our Indian Armed Forces. To talk about all that and more, I'm joined by Col Kaushal Kashyap as well as Col Kaushalendra Singh, who are of the Para Special Forces. Legends they are called. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me today on Spot On.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let me start by asking you, the Operation Sindur that India successfully completed changed the doctrine, changed the game. What, according to you, really stood out in this operation, which India didn't or hasn't attempted in the last maybe 50 years or so?
You see, nothing that we did was ever attempted before. Nothing, especially in the time frame that it happened. We have been able to, all this time we have been saying we'll hit back, we'll hit back, we'll hit back. We did hit back. But those hits did not matter much. It did not reach the right place where it should have. You see that, like the Uri attacks, we did take on a couple of terrorist camps, but those were terrorist camps. This time we have given them a bloody nose where it actually matters. Because the entire insurgency, I won't say call this insurgency, that's completely incorrect. The terrorism is sponsored by the state. And unless you hit the state that is sponsoring the terrorism, you don't actually mean, it's like, it's just
a fatal blow
super,
to the infrastructure.
Yeah, it was all superficial so far. But here, now that we have hit them, this is something that I'm sure they're going to remember.
What stood out for you, sir?
अभी तक कभी ऐसा नहीं हुआ था कि किसी भी मिलिटेंट अटैक के लिए या किसी भी टेरर अटैक के लिए प्रॉपर इंडियन आर्मी या एयरफोर्स ने स्ट्राइक्स करी हों. एंड वो भी डीप बिहाइंड लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल. और आईवी जनरली होता है कि पीओके में हमने एलओसी में कुछ एक्शंस कर दिए, कुछ रेड्स हो गई, कुछ अटैक्स हो गए, वो भी कर रहे थे, हम भी कर रहे थे. बट पहली बार शायद ऐसा हुआ है कि किसी टेरर अटैक के अगेंस्ट कंट्री ने एक डिसीजन लिया. 9 अटैक्स हुए, प्लान्ड अटैक्स हुए, कोऑर्डिनेटेड अटैक्स हुए एंड प्रॉपर एयरफोर्स ने प्लान करके वो अटैक्स किए. उनके टेरर कैंप्स उड़ाए गए. जब रिटेलिएट किया पाकिस्तान ने, तब शायद पहली बार ऐसा हुआ कि इस तरह से डिप्लोमेटिक एंड बैलेंस्ड जवाब भी दिया गया. तो ये दिखाता है पूरी नेशन विल को और शायद हमारी तैयारी को भी कि चीज़ें चेंज हो चुकी हैं. पहले शायद न्यूज़पेपर में हल्ला ज़्यादा होता था, डिबेट ज़्यादा होती थी न्यूज़ चैनल्स पे, बट अभी
हमने हल्ला नहीं किया. यस.
हाँ, बट अभी शायद एक्शन पहले हुआ, उसके बाद डिबेट्स हुई.
कितना खतरा था इस वाले ऑपरेशन में और क्या खतरा था इस वाले में?
किस में?
जो अभी हमने किया ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में.
आप गलत लोगों से पूछ रहे हैं. अगर खतरा नहीं होगा, यू आस्किंग अस जो खतरा ढूंढ करके जाते हैं. जहाँ खतरा नहीं होता वहाँ हम जाते नहीं हैं.
ऑफ कोर्स.
बट यस, खतरा था, अलग अलग तरह के खतरे थे. एंड रिटेलिएशन,
व्हाट वर दोस?
द वे इट हैपेंड, जब वी एक्चुअली शोड कि वी वर फर्म, वी मीन बिजनेस, उसके बाद में it could have escalated. and it would have escalated and into a full blown war. और अगर ये full blown war हो जाता है, समझते हैं मतलब it's not easy for anyone if it is a full blown war, and if it is a full blown war then जो अभी तक they have been calling the nuclear, so it would have given them उस level पे जा करके कि do you actually mean nuclear or is it just, आप समझ रहे हैं? So yeah, तो खतरा, that's going to be entirely different topic.
No, but I want to understand how daring was this operation, unlike some of the other. One is the fact that we changed the paradigm. Second is, from an operational point of view, this was also a very daring and risky operation for our armed forces. I want to understand from you as to what was that, if you could throw some light on that, because a lot of us know about the operation, but we know, some of us in our television studios, some of us as civilians, most of us do not have the idea of the depth and the intensity of what really happened.
See, this is an entirely different kind of a warfare that we are talking about. India has not been exposed, or rather had not been exposed to this kind of a warfare before this. All these kind of warfare that we had seen, we have never really had these kind of drone attacks. We never had missile attacks. We did not have this kind of a fighter jets and the entire, you see, so all this while that our priorities used to be the armored and the infantry operation, the special forces operation and stuff like this. Now, we have done very well with our indigenous systems. We have a mix of indigenous and imported stuff. And the first time, how do I say this, कि आप अभी तक net practice कर रहे थे and finally you have got balls coming onto you. So you need to actually prove it that all these systems that you had works, and it worked very well. I hope I'm trying,
yes.
I'm able to drive that point. कि अभी तक this kind of a warfare we had not seen, where they are sending 300 to 400 drones at one time, not just drones, coupled with missiles and fighters, और उसको आपने track करना है, deter करना है, उसको destroy करना है. So yes, I think we've.
और पलट के फिर उनके air bases भी फोड़े हैं.
That's a different game,
yes.
and
talk to us about that.
Yes.
Explain to us there.
See, पहले तो मैं शुरू करूँगा कि आपने तो asked कि कितना खतरा था. If you will ask आर्मी ना या एयरफोर्स एनी कॉम्बेटेंट पर्सन, तो जब आप लड़ाई पे जा रहे हैं तो वो खतरा सबको पता है कि खतरा है, बट इफ़ यू आर प्रिपेयर्ड, आप बॉक्सिंग रिंग में जब उतरते हैं तो लड़ाई तो होनी ही है. तो यू कैन नॉट से कि उसमें खतरा नहीं है और कितना खतरा है. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन योर प्रिपरेशन कि हमारी कितनी तैयारी थी. और इसमें इस वाले उसमें जब मैं कहूँगा कि अगर हमने रिटेलिएट किया, जब पाकिस्तान ने बोला कि हमने अटैक्स किए, ड्रोन्स किए एंड कि उनके कुछ जेट्स उसमें आए, इस्लामाबाद तक हिट हुआ है, है ना. एंड
वेरी क्लोज टू रावलपिंडी आल्सो, दैट जीएचक्यू
एंड उसको कोई बोलने के लिए तैयार नहीं है. इनफैक्ट ना यूएस रेडी है एक्सेप्ट करने के लिए, ना पाकिस्तान रेडी है एक्सेप्ट करने के लिए, और हम केवल मुस्कुरा रहे हैं बिकॉज सभी को पता लग चुका है कि इंडिया ने चाइनीज सिस्टम फेल किया, पाकिस्तानी सिस्टम फेल किया एंड कुछ यूएस सिस्टम भी फेल किया जो पाकिस्तान के पास था.
तो अपने हमारे इंडिजिनस डिफेंस के जो इक्विपमेंट है, प्लस ऑफ कोर्स द रशियन इक्विपमेंट दैट वी हैड. Yes.
Russian, the Israeli equipment that we had.
Yeah.
I would just like to add one more thing here. You know, we did not escalate it. Initially, 7th May, our strikes, we did not escalate it. We had no intention of escalating it. We just wanted to target their terror infrastructure. Now, once you do something of this kind, normally if I was an Air Force guy or an Air Defense guy, and if I have to plan an operation of that kind, how do you do it? You make a plan. You map all their air defense radars. You make all those installations, all that infrastructure that is going to interfere with your operation. The first and the foremost thing is you map these. The second thing is you take these on, and then you go and target. So that when you're targeting what you actually mean business, there's nobody interfering with you. Yeah, we took the risk. This was daring. This was not a very fair thing to do, but no matter. I mean, that is, we did not want it to escalate, and that is why we did it like that. We did not take on their Air Force. We did not take on their missiles. We did not take on their air defense assets the first time that we went ahead on 7th of May. Had we done that, they would have had no face saving, nothing. कुछ नहीं बचता उनके पास. If we wanted all out kind of a thing, पहले दिन, the same thing जो हमने 9th और 10th को किया, had we done it on 7th, कहाँ जाते? एक एयरक्राफ्ट नहीं बचता उनके पास. even other than that, it was a very measured kind of a response that we did.
Responsible, very responsible.
Very responsible and very measured, जिसमें we have not struck. If one missile can go, so can 20.
Yes.
So can 100. But we did not do that. Yeah, we did not.
It was also about sending a message.
जो 10th को हमने किया या 9-10th की रात में जो हमने किया कि इस्लामाबाद तक, रावलपिंडी तक, वहाँ तक एयर स्ट्राइक्स करी, अगर वो हम 7th को करते और सारी उनकी एयर स्ट्रिप्स को बर्बाद कर चुके होते तो पाकिस्तानी जहाज टेक ऑफ ही नहीं कर पाते।
वो इसलिए क्योंकि हम रिस्पॉन्सिबली मेजर्ड तरह से उनकी एक मैसेज भेजना चाह रहे थे, एंड वी वर आल्सो वेरी क्लियर कि हमें पहलगाम का रिस्पॉन्स करना है।
बिल्कुल,
हमारा पूरा का पूरा ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑपरेशन सिंदूर वाज पहलगाम, नथिंग मोर देन दैट, दैट वाज द फोकस।
ये अच्छा हो गया, ये अच्छा हो गया बिकॉज हम सिर्फ पहलगाम का बदला लेने के लिए टेरर नेटवर्क्स को टारगेट कर रहे थे, बट टेरर नेटवर्क्स के पीछे जो पाकिस्तानी आर्मी जो अभी तक खुश होकर के घूम रहे थे, दे वुड हैव नेवर नोन हाउ इट फील्स टू गेट अ ब्लडी नोज।
क्या उन्हें मैसेज मिल गया?
Oh, I mean, I don't think there should be any doubt. Message loud and clear. The only thing that is a slightly dampener is Trump couldn't have actually waited. He couldn't wait to let that out. He should have waited. He should have waited to one of these. And my request would
But
be...
government clarified कि ट्रम्प का कोई रोल ही नहीं था.
बिल्कुल. But again, जब ट्रम्प ने बीच में कर दिया तो अभी उनका just look at their prime minister, look at their DG ISPR announcing to the world that we raise the white flag. They're doing that on media. हम यहाँ से बोल रहे हैं. It's like आप समझ रहे हैं कि
But I have a different opinion there, and my opinion is that what credibility does a country's defense minister or DG ISPR have, who go around the world saying, yes, we harbor terrorists, so what? What credibility that country has? What credibility does a DG ISPR have whose father has direct terror links? Global terrorist, designated terrorist, उसकी क्या credibility हो सकती है? उस पद की, उस country की, उस सरकार की क्या credibility हो सकती है?
You are talking about a global scenario where everybody knows. But if you look at that country, उनके लोगों के लिए तो they are listening to them only. They are not listening to us. Yeah, they are looking at what their DG ISPR is saying. Their country should have known that we have faced defeat. This is what you have done.
Okay.
Then it would have been complete. That's my take on it. Completely personal.
Okay.
I would have wanted कि तुम रगड़ के अंदर डाल दो.
You wanted this Operation Sindur to extend, or as he's saying.
See, every फौजी ना, he wants कि अगर लड़ाई हुई है तो उसको अच्छे से ख़त्म किया जाए. मतलब ये फौजी का पर्सनल वो होता है. But Indian Army is fighting for the government, for the constitution.
And also it's a very responsible measure.
So it's a responsible measure. And जो decisions जो भी top वो लेंगे, Indian Army follows that thing. We are not Pakistani Army. That's the difference.
Of course.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you is that now the government has said we've called the nuclear bluff. The defense minister also said that we've called the nuclear bluff. अब हम nuclear के उससे नहीं रुकेंगे. कितना बड़ा paradigm shift है ये? Because every time one hears, whenever there is any conflict, escalation, the first thing one hears is that, Pakistan's nuclear switch, no one knows who has it. And no one knows where it will go. And that strikes panic across the world. And suddenly that becomes, India has to be the responsible one. How much do you think this nuclear bluff being called out is going to change the game going forward?
I have a slightly different opinion. ये है भी और नहीं भी. We have called in their bluff, yes. Call in their bluff कि मेरे पास है चाकू है, मैं मारूंगा. तो तुम्हारे पास चाकू है, तुम्हारे पास न्यूक्लियर है, जो भी है थप्पड़ तो फिर भी पड़ेगी. This is what we have been able to prove.
Absolutely.
कि we are not going to shy away from responding. We will give you a bloody nose, no matter whatever you have. But yes, that we do have to understand this thing कि nuclear is not the first thing. कि अभी तो even we did not go for an all-out war. So expecting कि पाकिस्तान शायद अभी से न्यूक्लियर कर देगा, इसी स्टेज पे न्यूक्लियर कर देना चाहिए था उसको. That may be, you understand? Nuclear is not the first thing. They have exhausted their, once you exhaust all your means, only probably that is when. So we did not escalate it to that war. But yes,
yeah,
but I do see your point. जो हर जगह वो है कि we have told them, we have sent a message कि no matter whatever you have, You may have nuclear, you may have whatever you have, it's for you to have. We are still going to pay you back in the same coin that you're going to.
That you deserve.
Yes, that you deserve.
In fact, on that note, I'm going to shift gears a little and come to what you started this conversation with when you said कि खतरों से हम कहाँ डरेंगे. And I remember you started that. And,
Spot on.
Yes. Spot on.
And I remember my team was saying that, these are the real khatron ke khiladi, so to say. And I want to, as I was going through some of your very distinguished records, the one thing that struck me was, karte kaise hain ye, ya kiya kaise? And that's in fact the one thing I want you to tell our viewers, which is that, the Red Devils, the Coast Operators, India's Silent Blades, these are the kind of names that have been given. I want to understand from you what it's like to actually be a member of the Para SF, what it's like to be that. Mentally, I mean, physically training, of course, is part of it. The mental conditioning that it takes to be a member of that elite force.
It feels great. It feels like a huge achievement. I mean, you go around and you look at ki, acha, it's like if you have to go on a mountaineering thing, isse upar ye hai, isse upar ye hai, and you keep climbing and somewhere there's nothing beyond that. So it gives that kind of an achievement ki yes, we have been able to make it to the special forces, which is very difficult, and not just clear probation and join. It is sustaining a lifetime of about 20 years, giving service and doing all that kind of operations that we have done. It feels great. I mean, I can't think of anything better than that.
Yeah.
What was the toughest mission that required you to be on your, which tested your, as I said, I keep coming back to mental conditioning because physical endurance is one part of it. It's the mental conditioning that's the tougher part. Which was that mission that tested that mental conditioning of yours the most?
If you ask me, every mission that we plan, we start from the fact that if it is not tough or if it is not challenging, we won't even take that.
वो Para SF के पास आएगा ही नहीं.
बिल्कुल.
Yes.
If
Is that what the point is?
Yeah, if it can be done by somebody else, let somebody else do it.
दूसरे लोग कर सकते हैं तो फिर वो करेंगे, फिर हमारी जरूरत ही नहीं है.
तो किस तरह के मिशन में आपकी जरूरत आती है? Give us an example just for us to understand when you say that this is the elite force of India and it has to deal with what no other force deals with.
See, किस तरह के मिशंस, अगर मैं इंटरनल बात करता हूँ तो ऐसे मिशंस जहाँ पर हर चीज़ अगेंस्ट है नॉर्मल कंडीशंस के, वेदर अगेंस्ट है, टेरेन अगेंस्ट है, कहें मतलब आपने सुना होगा कि कुछ एरिया ऐसे हैं जहाँ पर मिलिटेंट्स ने पहले झंडे लगा रखे थे. अगर मैं सूरनकोट वाले इलाके की बात करूं या मणिपुर की बात करें तो मणिपुर में कुछ एरिया ऐसे थे जहां पर कैंप्स बने हुए थे, प्रॉपर मिलिटेंट कैंप्स बने हुए थे इंडिया एंड बर्मा बॉर्डर पे, और दे वर नॉट अलाउइंग एनीवन, किसी को भी एंट्री नहीं थी. अगर सिविलियंस जाते थे वो तो प्रॉपर चेक्स होते थे, एंड अगर आर्मी ट्राई करती थी तो अटैक्स होते थे, माइनफील्ड्स लगी हुई थी. देन दैट टास्क वाज गिवन टू स्पेशल फोर्सेस. वो पूरा एरिया खाली कराया गया. मतलब उसके बाद अभी तक वो कैंप्स बने हुए हैं बट खाली हैं. आप अगर जाएंगे तो उसको टूरिस्ट स्पॉट में डेवलप किया जा सकता है कि सब कुछ बंकर्स बने हुए हैं, लेडीज़ के अलग बने हुए हैं, जेंट्स के अलग बने हुए हैं, उनकी संतरी पोस्ट बनी हुई है, सारा कुछ बना हुआ है. अगर आप एक्सटर्नल की बात करो तो उरी वाजन है एग्जाम्पल फॉर दैट, किस तरह के टास्क दिए जाते हैं. तो मैं कहूँगा कि अगर कोई ऐसी चीज़ है जो लगता है कि बहुत ज़्यादा रिस्की है, बहुत ज़्यादा प्लानिंग है, बहुत ज़्यादा तैयारी की ज़रूरत है एंड ट्रेंड उसकी ज़रूरत है या छोटी टीम्स की ज़रूरत है, तो वो स्पेशल फोर्सेस के पास आएगा.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I'll just give you the same thing that he was trying to tell you. If it is fighting militancy or if it is fighting terrorism, we are doing that, everybody is doing that. So how special forces make it different is what sets them apart. Similar that he was giving an example, my unit specializes in the northeast. So I'll give you one of the examples where I was a very rookie then, I would say, just cleared my probation. I had done good amount of operations, but I had not done this kind of a jungle operations, and I have spoken about it at length on various channels. So yes, most of Manipur at that time, the hill parts of it was considered a liberated zone. It was under rebels. It was very similar to what it is now. So dynamics are completely different. They were running.
How many years back was this?
This was 2005,
4-5.
20 years back.
2004, yeah, 2004 we moved in there, and militants were running medical camps Militants were running recruitment rallies. Militants were running buses. It was
Parallel
like that.
power center.
Parallel power
Yes.
center. The entire government authority was based to the valley. Apart from that, in the hills, it was most part of it was Kukis, and some part towards the north was under the Nagas, and they controlled. Every village had grown their own kind of militant organizations. So that is how it was, and the army started clearing. Initially, army was deployed for Op Vijay and Op Parakram. After that, when it went back, it had to clear portions slowly, and give it back. So one of these operations that was happening, we had major casualties, and we lost an officer and about 4 or 5 Jawans, where the bulletproof jackets were taken off and they were shot at very close range. They were ambushed in a bad manner. So after that, the special forces were moved in.
Okay.
And yeah, so classically our kind of operations would be, we would go inside those so-called liberated zones, stay there, self-sustain for a good amount of time. And
How long were you there?
almost the entire lifetime I've been there so far. I'm a young guy actually, but yeah, so whatever little surface that I have had, most of it was in those areas. So we just go there, stay there hidden, not detected. We target their camps, we target their movement, and we come back. We restrict, we made them go out of the entire country. We liberated those areas and came back. So one of these operations that I was trying to tell you about, that I mentioned, that I was a youngster and we were going to raid 2 camps like this, and we had gone about 40 kilometers from nowhere. There was no support, nowhere, good about 40 kilometers, and in the jungles 40 kilometers, hell lot of a distance. And 200 meters close to the militant camp, we were going very slowly. My party was led by his brigadier, now Brigadier T.J. Singh. He's a Shaurya Chakra and a bar. I am a Shaurya Chakra, he's Shaurya Chakra bar. And the other party was Colonel Nectar Sanjay Bam. He's the same gentleman who had done the surgical strikes in Myanmar.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's a Kirti Chakra and a Shaurya Chakra. Yeah, so 200 meters close to the camp, we're just walking, and the first guy goes, the second guy, he steps on an IED and he goes boom like that. And I see his feet little, even over the ceiling that we have here. And he falls flat on his face. That is the time everybody around you tells ki, sir, yahan IED hai. Very simple device with a small bamboo piece they had folded like this. Pieces of metal, little explosive, a detonator, source of bad power. You step on it, the circuit completes and just blow up like that.
Yeah.
Now we had to move. We are 200 meters from the camp. These guys would have got to know. What do? We did not know where to step. And it is not like the carpet that is across here that you see, even if you drop a pen, you can see and what is there.
The terrain is tough.
Oh, it's grass. You don't know where your feet is there.
It's tough terrain, yeah.
And if you have to carry someone now, and there's someone walking ahead of you, you don't know where to step. You can't see your steps. What do you do in a place like this? Now we were still getting to know of kya karna hai, kya nahi. I can't go ahead without mentioning what this guy, Kakivi Sema, one of the best scouts that we had, is a Naga guy. Aise gira, and his eyes were completely bruised. That was because of the blast. Yeah, and he was lying like this. We attended him, and you know what he says? कहते साहब मेरा पाँव ठीक है, तो पाँव तो ठीक तो क्या ही था, बट टोल हिम कि हाँ ठीक है, तू एकदम फिट हो जाएगा, हाथ वाथ ठीक है. कहता साहब अच्छा हुआ, मुझे छुट्टी जाने का बहाना मिल जाएगा. Can you beat it?
Yeah.
वो
As I
कहाँ?
said, yeah, mental conditioning. This is mental conditioning.
40 किलोमीटर अंदर, जहाँ से अभी पता नहीं है 200 मीटर पे मिलिटेंट्स है, they are going to come after you. You are in their area, or you are already injured. You can't even see who is going to attack. हम तो फिर भी छुप जाएंगे, तेरे तो छुप भी नहीं सकता. ठीक है, and उसको जोक आ रहा है.
But that's the spirit, I guess.
And
That's the steely resolve.
We were still getting in terms कि अभी करना क्या है. That is when Colonel Nectar's party, the other party that was going, they get into a firefight. Now even if the militants had some amount of doubt in their mind कि respond करना है, नहीं करना है, you don't know when, if a IED has gone off, it could be a animal.
Yes.
But now they are sure there's an IED that has gone off here, somebody is coming from this side, they would have ambushes towards us. They were pinned down. We had to move because those guys were like, they had 2 casualties. One, the entire bulletproof jacket was cracked and he flew for about a meter when he got a burst from a medium machine gun. The second one, Chattar Singh, he got hit on his leg. His leg was somewhere apart. And we are caught in the mid of a call it like a minefield, which is actually an ID field. Colonel Tejas Singh, he just picks up his rucksack and start moving, and we just follow him and we move.
That's the spirit.
It doesn't end there.
That is the spirit, that's the resolve, yes. Which brings me to ask a couple of quick questions, and then we'll also have a rapid fire. So the quick questions is one-line answers, and rapid fire, of course, is like as short as possible. So one is it true that para-SFs train with live ammo in buddy drills?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And
yes.
how does it feel?
I mean, it's always with live ammo.
I think everyone is training with live.
Okay. What happens, that one moment that you wish civilians could understand, that they just cannot understand when it comes to an operation or something, that one thing that you would want civilians who are not in fatigues, military fatigues, to understand what you go through, what would that be?
It's not easy. It's not easy.
It's not easy, and for a person in combat, patriotism is 24/7 into 365.
That's a very important thing that
Yeah.
you said, yes.
And for others, it's a wave.
Yeah, and is that what makes a soldier unbreakable? It's a question, but I guess you just answered that. That
Yes.
makes a soldier unbreakable.
Yeah, if I have the way of explaining why I said it's not easy, it's people who want to join the special forces, it is people who want to opt for the army. Nothing is easy. You don't see the hard work that goes behind it. And when people tell you कि ये militant मारते क्यों नहीं है, ये पहलगाम जो कर दिया उनको क्यों नहीं मारते हैं, इसको क्यों नहीं मारते हैं, ख़त्म कैसे कर देते हैं, कैसे militant LC पार करके अंदर आ जाता है, so वो सब के लिए it's not easy.
Terrorist, militant nahi, terrorist.
Yeah, terrorist.
Yes.
For me personally, I mean, a lot of people have actually told me that the names do not matter. It may matter at some places. For me, it doesn't matter. For
No,
people
it's not
like
names,
me,
it's terminology.
Terminology doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You see somebody who's up against the government, even if it is a militant, he's a terrorist or whoever he may be, he's better dead than his life. It doesn't matter whatever terminology we use. That's how I look at things. It could vary. I'm sure at some forums, I'm sure at some places it matters, but I think that is more applicable for you. And very rightly that you have pointed out, for people like me, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Then it brings me to my last quick question, which is that your message to those who say that peace is better than war, there should never be war, and we should continue to always have peace.
It looks very easy when you are sitting comfortably in your AC room. But peace is always maintained at the cost of war. आप किसी भी जगह का एग्जाम्पल ले लीजिए, मतलब इंडिया या आउट ऑफ एनी प्लेस इन ग्लोब, लड़ाई आपको लड़नी ही पड़ेगी शांति के लिए. और अगर आप स्ट्रांग हैं, ताकतवर हैं, तभी उस पीस को रख पाएंगे. और स्पेशली इफ़ योर नेबर्स आर लाइक पाकिस्तान, बांग्लादेश, चाइना, तो you have to be strong.
I would say war is essential.
Yeah.
War is essential to maintain peace. You can't have peace without actually being strong, without having to prove. It's only when you give a bloody nose to people, they will behave, and you can maintain peace. You can focus towards growth and prosperity and everything else.
Rapid fire, jungle ops or desert ops?
Jungle any day.
Jungle.
Stealth or firepower?
When you have stealth, you may need less firepower, but there are times you need firepower.
Yeah. LC, you require firepower. Jungle, you require stealth, then firepower.
One motto that you live by?
Country first.
Only fools fight fair.
Only fools fight fair, okay. Fastest decision you ever made?
This is rapid fire. Spot on.
Good one, okay. Worst injury you ignored in battle?
Yeah, it was one of the operations where I had to slither down and hit a camp, and I had a bad sprain injury, but then we were right into action, and there was no way I could have, as a leader, as a team commander, had to continue. It's not classically a one word.
Yeah. Same in a jump. Got my Achilles tendon injured. चलता है.
Most underrated special forces skill? Most underrated skill of para-SFs?
Identifying a vulnerable area where you are at threat. That is something nobody talks about, but then that I feel is most essential.
Keeps you alive, doesn't it?
It keeps you alive. Yes. You have to have a sixth sense. You have to have not just a sixth sense, you have to study the lay of ground and identify if I'm going there, chances of me coming out is bad.
If not the army, then what else? If not the forces, what else would you have done?
Very difficult to say. Never thought about that actually.
Last.
Maybe an artist.
Maybe an artist? Okay. Well, that's like a 180 degrees.
Yeah.
Define victory in one word.
When the next guy's got nothing in him to get up.
When you are sure कि अब दुश्मन नहीं है.
No caught punch.
Yeah.
Right?
Over and out.
Over and out.
Over and out.
We don't use that in the army, but yeah.
Over and out it is. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
gentlemen, for a lovely conversation. We covered a lot of ground. And we've also got an insight into the mind, the thinking, the psyche of what is it that takes our soldiers to those forward areas, those front lines to keep us safe. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Jai Hind.